I give the word, everyone, I want to see everybody's face, just just for the test. I don't want to, I don't have to see your face during the semester, but on the day of the test, I want to see your face. So I see your face. I know who you are. I won't take attendance probably because I'll use your actual test papers as the attendance. And then I will give you the word, get into position. And this is what getting into position means. You tip your computer so that this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at your cell phone on one side, your calculator on the other side. The cell phone is where I will send you the test at around sometime between 1:05 and 1:10. I will send you the exam. You open it up on your phone. You go to your email, you open it up, and this is where you're going to see the test questions. Unless you somehow want to print it, and you could do that if you want. You could, if you have your printer handy, you could do that. But this is all that will be on your desk. You will never hold your cell phone like this. See how I have it now? I have it directly over the test paper. You cannot do this. It must be on the side. It can't be over it. It must be on the side. And there are a number of reasons for that. It's I'm not condemning anybody for doing anything that's untoward or demonstrating cheating in any way. Of course, I trust all of you, but there are some students that will take a picture of their work, send it to their brother who's a chemical engineering major at City College, and I don't want any of that. Or maybe even in the next room, they're waiting for the test to come. Or there is an app where you put your phone over the problem and the problem will be solved by the app. So nobody can hold their phone over their test paper. To look at the questions, your phone must be off the test paper. You can get as close as you want. You could put it right up to your face if you want, if you need to do that. But your phone has to be on the left side or the right side. I mean, you could switch it around. If you're more comfortable this way, then you could do it this way. But this is the way it's supposed to look for the entire time that the test is being given. Okay, and again, you must use blue or black ink. You cannot use pencil. It's hard for me to read that. You cannot use yellow ink, pink ink, purple ink, green ink, because those are difficult for me to read. So it must be either a black pen or a blue ink pen. And this is the way it has to look. If for some reason you cannot duplicate what I'm showing you now, then see me privately. I don't want to discuss this in class because most people will do this, but there will be some people who don't have a computer or don't have a camera on their computer, and in which case we'll talk about it. There's a week before the test, so we still have plenty of time to come up with a solution. I've had students take the test with an iPad. That's fine. I've had students take the test using their cell phones. That's a problem, but we'll talk about it. But that's not what we're going to be doing right now. This is the way it has to look. And you will hopefully, and I can look at you now for this rest of this part. So my cell phone gets put on the side there. The practice test is over there. Okay. So, you'll be taking the test, and you're allowed to step away from the from your camera. Only, I mean, if you have to go to the bathroom, you have to go to the bathroom. I can't prevent that. So you're allowed to go to the bathroom. You can, you should tell me that you're doing that. You shouldn't just vanish for and really, uh, it behooves me to tell you that if you go to the bathroom, try to make it fast. I don't want people vanishing for 15, 20 minutes. I had a student, he said, I was very sick. I mean, how do I dispute that? You know, do I ask to see a sample? I mean, there's no way I could possibly dispute that. So, okay, I understand. But in most cases, going to the bathroom, is a 5 minute at the most situation. So you're allowed to step away for that alone. There are other situations. Like I had a student who said, it was 3 o'clock and somebody was bringing this young man's brother home, and he had to go downstairs and open the door. So he did that. I actually heard his footsteps on the steps, and he came back very quickly, and his brother was, in the room, and that's okay. I have to trust you. However, there are certain things that I do insist on, and that's what I'm telling you right now. So you're going to put all your work must be on the test paper. Don't have scrap paper on the side and then put your work on the test paper. I must see everything. If you do a question and get the question perfectly correct, you write down the exact answer that it should be, but you have no work showing me how you got that answer. That is unacceptable, and you will get a 0 for that question. I must see everything. That's essential. Okay. Now, I would like you, so the test is now over. And I like to give 2 hours for the first test. It's a 10-question test. It looks just like the practice test. So if you did the practice test, and I certainly hope you did, because that was the vehicle for which I'm going to use to help you review for the test. But the practice test shows you exactly the kinds of questions that will be on the exact exam. That should take you 2 hours. If somebody needs a little extra time, that's fine. If somebody has a special consideration from the Office of Accessibility for double time, that person will have as much time basically as they need. So that's a separate situation. But most people, we will start the test probably at the same time. So probably around 1:05, I will say, all right, the room is now closed. I will close the room, lock the room. And at that moment, I will email you a copy of the test. If you come late, you must, you can't come 45 minutes after the test starts and say, I'm here to take the test. That's not permitted. You have to be here. If you're late, and you come at 1:15, for example, and you email me and say, Professor, I can't get in, the class is locked. Okay, I will open it for you. You will come in, I'll lock it behind you. I don't want people just floating in and floating out, floating in. Once you're here to take the test. Okay, so that's that. So everybody's working. I showed you exactly how it's supposed to be. And okay, so now you finished taking the test. You check your work. You look over there's one thing I need to tell you. I did tell the class that you are allowed to bring in a list of formulas. Okay, so the distance formula, the midpoint formula, what other formulas did we have? The whatever formula we did, you're allowed to bring that formula into class. What you cannot bring is something that actually, I mean, your notes, you can't bring your actual notes in and look at how a question is done. You can't do that. Once you sit down to take the test, you can have the formulas, you can have your cell phone, you can have your calculator. Graphing calculators are not permitted, only scientific calculators. That doesn't apply so much here. Well, it does, because there is a graphing question. The graphing question of the absolute value function. So, you know, so you can't use a graphing calculator, because the graphing calculator can do the work for you. You have to have a scientific calculator. So you finish the test. How long it takes you. If you finish it in an hour, you're allowed to leave. If you finish it, you know, whatever time you finish it, you say to me, Professor, I'm finished. You will then take a picture of each page that you wrote on. Each page of the test will be taken a picture of. Now, I like to use Cam Scanner. I've been using it for many years. I think it's the best scanning device I've ever used. But there are other scanning apps you could use, and if your phone has its own scanning, you could use that as well. There are some people who are not, you know, sophisticated with computers and cell phones. You're looking at one of those people right now. When I use Cam Scanner, I didn't just come up with Cam Scanner. One of my students, like, I don't know how long ago this was, maybe 6, 7 years ago, I'm in the college, and a student said, "Hey, would you like me to teach you how to use Cam Scanner?" I said, "Sure." And I was taught how to use it. But if you cannot use a scanning for whatever reason, then you simply take pictures of every single page. Now, students have said to me, can I take one picture of each page? So there's 10 questions of each question, one question for each page. And he took literally, and this was one of the tests that had, like, 13 questions or 14 questions. He took 14 different photos and emailed them to me. It's very difficult to send the email with 14 pages. It takes forever. Everybody gets impatient. As students want to leave, I want them to leave if they want to leave. So I would suggest don't put more than 2 or 3 pages on a particular email. So students have literally sent me 14 different emails. It's crazy. But, if they're PDF files, of course, then a PDF, an email can handle a lot of PDF pages. So that's preferable. I would rather you did not send me 14 different emails. I'd rather you send me 1 or 2 with all your work on it. Okay. And then as soon as you finish the test, you take the picture, you send it to me, you're out of the room. Okay, that's it. But you wait until I get it. So when you send it to me, I will be looking at my phone and saying, okay, I got your email of your test. Have a very nice day, and I'll see you whenever. Okay? And that's how the test will be submitted. I will probably not grade your paper until that evening. I usually start around 7 p.m. So the test is over. I have a little dinner, I relax, and then I begin grading the papers. And what I do is I bring your paper up on my screen. I have a separate sheet where I write down how many points you got. I can't actually grade your paper. So the actual test paper you send me, I can't grade that, because I'd have to print my printer would just, I have a very bad printer. The printer will not handle, making 5 pages, 4 pages, 15. It's not going to work. So I grade your paper actually looking on the screen and writing out how many points you get. So students always say to me, how will I know which questions I got wrong? How will I know if I made a mistake or not? Because I used to grade papers when I worked at the college at the actual building. And I used to indicate what the students did wrong. We can't do that, obviously. So what I will do is I will put a video online of me going over the test. And you will have to compare your test with that. If you want to know more precise information, like which questions did you get wrong and how many points did you lose for that question, I can do that. A student said to me, it was a very good student, but student got like a 98 on the test. And she said, which questions did I get wrong and how many points did I lose? I said, really? Okay, you're a student. I've told you 1,000 times, or not 1,000, but a lot. I work for you. I'm here for you. You tell me what you want, and I will try to accommodate you. So if you don't, if you want to know which questions you got wrong, because then you could focus on that on the video, then that's what we will do. I will, go through your test, and I will tell you exactly what you did wrong. You will then watch the video. If you need something beyond the video, you would like to make a meeting with me, an office hour, just me, not a tutoring thing, but just you want to meet with me, that's okay. We could do that. We could do that anytime because it's on Zoom. So that works out pretty well. If you didn't get a grade you wanted and you want to go over the test with me, we'll go over the test. I'm here for you. And then I get the test. I'll grade it. I'll put it in my record book. You grade. I will then send you an email probably that evening. So if I start at 7, it depends. Sometimes it takes. So I would say that by around 10 or 11 o'clock that evening, I will send you an email. Now, this first email will simply say your grade on the first test was, let's say, an 85. And that is equivalent to a grade of B. So as far as I'm concerned, you have, as of the first test, you're running a B in the course. That's what it boils down to. Unless your classwork is off the charts, but I don't deal with, that type of thing until later on in the semester. So my email to you will say, congratulations, you did very well with an 85 on the test. Keep doing what you're doing. Whatever you're doing to prepare for the test, keep doing that. If a student gets a grade they're not pleased with, a low grade, I will say to them, you did not do as well as you could have done. May I suggest, and I'll make a few suggestions, like, look at the videos more carefully, study for the test a little better, come to a tutorial that I give usually on the weekends, or see me privately, or there are things you could do at the college where you could get tutoring in the math lab on the 5th floor of the main building. I gotta tell you, honestly, I don't like when my students get tutored by somebody else. Not that I don't trust them to be a good teacher. I'm not the only, I'm not arrogant to the point where I'm the only good teacher, in the math department. There's 200 people and there's some wonderful, wonderful teachers. The reason I don't want somebody else to teach you something is because then they're going to teach you a different method. And I've taught you one method, they've taught you another method, and now you're confused. Which method should I use? And the more people you go to for advice, on how to do a problem, the more confused you may get. So I would prefer if you stick with my suggestions, my videos. I said you could go to YouTube and Google, but the trouble with that is, you get other people teaching you something that may be different from the way I teach it. They may emphasize different things than I emphasize. There's a concept. You would think in mathematics, there's only one way to do that concept, but that's not true. There's a lot of ways of looking at the concept. So, I don't like students to go off on their own. Now, there are some students who do the problem totally differently than I explained it. I'm not permitting that this semester. I don't trust that. I just don't trust that. You have to use the method that I've taught to you in class. I know that's a little weird because a lot of you have had pre-calculus. Some of you have people who are tutoring you and are using a different method. I must see the same method. Otherwise, I would just prefer that. I would prefer you use the method that I have showed you how to do it, or at least a little different, maybe, but not a totally different method. Because I just don't feel comfortable with that. Okay, let me just see one thing before I ask you if there are any questions. I have an actual paper which indicates the rules for test taking. I'm just going to look at that quickly. If you want to go to a textbook, you can't bring in a textbook. You can't speak to anybody during the test. So I see you must be unmuted so I could hear what's going on. You have to write your own exam unless you have special permission from the Office of Accessibility for somebody else to write your exam. All work must be shown for every problem. I'm telling you, if you put an answer down that's perfectly right with no work, you're going to get a 0 because I won't know how you got that. To me, maybe your grandfather who was a mathematics professor, passed by and gave you the answer. I got to see how you do it. Let me see what else I have here. Okay. All right. That's it. And that's basically how the procedure will go. It'll flow. I've taken quite a while here in explaining this, but really the test will go more smoothly. It'll be a very smooth, your responsibility is to simply find a comfortable place with a table that will accommodate, your cell phone on one side, your calculator on the other. You tip your computer so I could actually watch you work. And it goes very, very well. Sabrina.
Professor, I have a question. How many problems will have in the test, in the quiz, sorry?
It's a
How many
test.
problems?
I don't give quizzes. It's a test.
Okay, sorry. It's a test. Okay.
Have you seen the practice test?
No yet, Professor. No yet. No.
You haven't seen it?
No yet. Because I've been really busy. I'm gonna do it today, but I just want to know. Or is everything there, right? In the
Everything that's
practice?
on the practice test will be on the regular test. So
Okay,
there's
thank
10
you.
questions on the practice test. There's 10 questions on the regular test. And
Okay,
some
thank you,
questions have
Professor.
two, I believe question 10 had different parts to it. So,
Okay.
and also I think another question had different parts to it. But there's 10 questions.
Thank you, Professor. I appreciate it. And
Question
sorry
number-
for your reaction that I made that reaction in here.
Well, I expect everybody to have seen the practice test by now, and in fact, have looked at it and done it. So when I hear that a student hasn't seen the practice test, it's sort of horrifying.
Yeah, I've been having a really busy week. Yeah.
All right, okay,
I'm sorry.
all right. Anybody else would like to ask a question? Anything? Not about mathematics, just
I have a
about,
question, Professor.
Anthony, yes.
You said we have to be unmuted or muted during the exam, during the
Unmuted,
quiz.
not, I want to hear what's going on around you.
But what if like it's like
Yes,
noisy, someone has a noisy
yes,
background or something like that?
thank you, excellent question. Then you have to mute. In other words, if you're taking the test, and God forbid, they're drilling, you know, those jackhammers are working outside your window, I can't imagine, I mean, that'll be horrible for you. But if that's, you know, obviously you can't do that. If you're taking the test in your kitchen and the family is around you, I've had that a few times, of course, then you have to mute yourself. Any extraneous noise that's going on around you, then you have to mute. So that's a good question, and that's the answer to the question. But we start out with everybody unmuted. And I'll tell you, you know, either in a chat message, or I will actually say to you, you know, Anthony, please mute your computer. So that's a good question. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Professor, I have a question.
Louis, go ahead.
Yeah, I have trouble logging into my email on the BMCC email on my phone, so I don't know how would I get the test on.
You have trouble logging into the email on the,
Yes, on my phone only.
do you have a
But-
private email?
Yes, I have a private email.
So why can't we use that?
Or yeah, I'll send you my private email then after class.
Yeah, you have to send me an email and use your, use, because a lot, that's what I tell people that. I say, let me know which email you'd like me to communicate with you, and that's the one I will use. So
Or
you should
I'll
send it
send
to
you.
me after the class. Yes.
or thank you.
Thank you. Good question. I mean, part of the problem here is that we want to troubleshoot all the possible things that could go wrong. And this is good. You're asking questions that I didn't think about certain things. So this is good. Anybody else? Can ask me anything. Okay, so then I'm going to assume that these are the instructions for taking the test, and the video that I currently have running, I am now going to stop because that's going to be separate from the actual review of the practice test. That'll be a separate video. So I'm now going to stop.